In this season of acknowledging the presence of the unseen, we celebrate that last Sunday's service was attended by remote viewing from places like Arlington, Reading, Groton, Boston, Cambridge, and Woburn. If you are attending via live stream this morning, no matter where you are joining us from, we are so glad you are here. For those here in the sanctuary, let's take a moment to greet our friends at home by turning towards the camera near the Welcoming Congregation banner and offering a friendly wave. And now let's turn and greet one another.
You sound like a happy, talkative group this morning. Good morning. My name is Stephen Parapelic. Harris Gibson and I are delighted to be today's worship associates. It's good to be with you as always, whether in the sanctuary or virtually. In this sacred space, we come together to explore, question, and reflect on life's mysteries. We draw inspiration from a variety of sources: wisdom from world religions, the insights of science, the arts, and our own personal experiences. We share values of justice, compassion, and the interconnected web of existence guide us in our quest for a more just and loving world. Let us remember that each one of us brings a unique perspective and a precious gift to our community. That's why all are welcome here: the joyful, the heartbroken, atheists and Christians, Muslims and Jews, straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, all who are searching, seeking, looking for more meaning, love, and service. May our time together be an opportunity for growth, connection, deepening our understanding of the world and one another. Thank you for being a part of this community and for enriching it with your presence. Immediately following today's service, please join us downstairs in Metcalf Hall after the service for Spooktacular. This is Wussy G's fall fundraiser to support their service trip to West Virginia. Lunch will be served and lots of terrifying treats, ghoulish games and crafts and music, a costume contest, and much more. See you there if you dare. If you are attending Spooktacular and have mobility challenges that might make walking downstairs difficult, as our elevator is out of service, volunteers are available to drive you around the building from the Main Street entrance to Metcalf Hall. So come to the Sims room at the back of the sanctuary immediately after worship to connect with one of our drivers. Those people are Patty, Brad, Gordy, Kim, Lee, Vicky, and Peter. That's our Uber Wuss caravan force. And now Sue Chiara will come forward with a special announcement. Oh, you're already here. And in costume.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Robin Graves, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware that on Saturday, November 18th, Winchester Unitarian Society will be hosting more than 20 artists as part of the town-wide Winchester Open Studios. We will also be having our own store fundraiser in the chapel with our own arts and crafts. I still have over 50 open spots for people to work. Most of them are super simple jobs like sitting at a table and greeting the many visitors that we hope we'll see here at the church. There's a Sign Up Genius link in highlights. There'll be another one going out Monday, and I will be at Spooktacular with some witchy treats for you, which I'm about to go down and make sure are in order. Thank you.
The ritual of welcoming and honoring ancestors is an ancient spiritual practice found in many cultures and traditions. Let us open our hearts and minds to the spirit of worship with an invocation to our great cloud of witnesses. From our histories, our ancestors call to us. We are grateful for their gifts, their lessons, and their challenge, calling us into accountability and responsibility to fulfill their hopes and aspirations. We call on the early Universalists and Unitarians, lay people and ordained, who brought our faith tradition to the shore of the Aberjona River. We call on the ancestors of the Winchester Unitarian Society, who built, grew, and dreamed this congregation and this community into being. We call on those who represent peoples of our region, those who strove to build beloved community, representing diverse cultures and traditions, including the indigenous peoples of different tribes. We call upon and honor the beauty of the earth, the interconnectedness to nature, and the history of land itself. We call to mind our own particular ancestors, family roots, spiritual mentors and guides. Each one brings us into the room our own network of people and places. We have welcomed our ancestors to join us. May they bless our time and space. May they guide us on our way.
We now invite Rebecca Benadia to light our candle. Yesterday, our distant ancestors gathered around a flame to share their stories and to find comfort. Tomorrow, our descendants will gather around a flame, talking of life we never will know. But today, it is we who gather here around this flame, seeking, believing, and being together. May those present rise and body our spirit and join to sing hymn number 52 in our great hymnal.
I invite those who are young and young at heart to come forward for a celebration. A celebration. A celebration. Have a seat. Okay, so welcome. Instead of a story this morning, we are going to celebrate and wish good luck and farewell to our friend Sam. Come on up here, Sam. Sam. Sam is our Director of Youth and Children's Ministries at WUS, and he's my boss. And he's going on sabbatical. A sabbatical is a time when you get to go away and reflect and rest. And he's going in 2 days. 2 days. So this is his last Sunday with us, and we want to wish him a fun farewell. Some of you may remember a story I read a while back called Invisible Threads. This was based on a Chinese proverb that said, each of us is connected to everyone we're meant to meet in this life by a red thread, an invisible red thread. When we read the book, we imagined all of us at WUS and everyone we know out in the world connected by this red thread, and that all of those connections make up a beautiful web of connection between everyone in the world. Now, when I think of thread and connections, I think of how lots of people will knit someone a sweater or a blanket when they embark on a journey. I remember that when I was a child, in my family, my grandmother would knit a blanket for any of us that were graduating from high school to take with us on our life's journey. I still have mine, and I treasure it, and I still use it. So if I were my grandmother, or even someone who knew how to knit, I would knit Sam a sweater for his travels. Since I'm neither of those things, I'd like to take a minute to knit Sam an invisible sweater of our words of appreciation and love that he can take with him on his journey. In a lot of youth groups, there's an icebreaker where you sit in a circle and you say your name and something about yourself, and then you toss a ball of yarn to someone across the circle. And you go on and on until you have this beautiful web that connects all of you together. So I'd like to do something similar here today. So even though the sweater Sam takes with him will be invisible, we're going to use this rainbow yarn that Milo has so that we can see it with our own eyes as well as our hearts, just how much we love and appreciate Sam. So I invite the youth who have prepared to speak to gather around Sam in a circle. I'm going to scooch this way. Ooh, there goes my shoe. You guys can scooch over this way so that the youth can circle around Sam. You scooch over this side? That's it. All right, so where's Milo? All right, Milo, I'm going to hand you the mic, and you guys can tell Sam your words.
Hi, I'm Milo. And any room that Sam is in, it immediately becomes a safe space. Oh.
I'm Riley, and Sam makes sure every voice, whether quiet or loud, is respected and heard by all.
I'm Diana, and Sam always makes sure we always have a plan and are always able to get together and makes things go smoothly.
I'm Hannah, and I'm so grateful that we have Sam as a leader because he's the role model for the leader I want to be.
I'm Rebecca, and Sam has always made me feel unconditionally loved and accepted, and your laugh always makes me smile.
I'm Lark, and thank you. And Sam has had a huge impact on my life by bringing me to WCG.
Hi, I'm Giorgio, and Sam's always made me feel better with his really infectious laughter, and he just makes everyone feel safe.
So now you get to hold it.
On the horn.
So, Sam, please take these words along with our well wishes and our love on your journey, and remember that the invisible web of WUS is waiting to welcome you home.
I now turn things over to Gordy McIntosh, the co-chair of our standing committee, who will share about some additional gifts we're offering.
Thank you, Heather. I wrote a message from the chair in last week's highlights. You should go back and read that. I'm just going to read a little bit of it right now. Sam has served as the Director of Youth Ministry for 10 years and has continued the work of his predecessors, inspiring young minds, teaching you values of social, racial, and environmental justice, and all while giving them a safe and comfortable place to be themselves. He does this through weekly meetings, sleepovers, youth-led worship services, and annual service trips. He recently started a middle school-age junior youth group to provide them with the same kind of age-appropriate work that he does with the high schoolers. Now, with the recent departure of our Director of Lifespan Education, Rebecca Kelly Morgan, he is now the Director of Youth and Children's Ministries, and Brenna's boss. Thank you, Sam. Sam, we hope sabbatical is a time of deep rest, so we give you this handmade pillow made of custom, I should have read this earlier, Moroccan fabric. What is it? Myrmicorn. Thank you. I should have read this more closely. And including good wishes from members of the youth group in case you are homesick for WUS. We hope that you have new adventures, so we give you a telescope so that you may view new horizons. Somebody have a telescope to present? We know that you will be doing some writing, so here's a fun and fancy new pen set. Who's got the pen set? There we go. We want you to also have lots of fun, so here's a tiny disco ball. Who has the tiny disco ball? There we go. And finally, we wish to give you a coin. We don't give you this tiny bit of money to be stingy. There is a practice of giving money to a traveler with the instruction to donate the money upon arrival. This way, their journey is a mission of charity, and they will be protected. We hope that you will have a safe passage from here and a safe return in April. You go with our love, Sam. Have a great sabbatical.
Thank you all so much. Wow, those presents are amazing. I'm so grateful to all of you for your generosity, for your thoughtfulness, the creativity. Oh, those are so cool. Also, I just want to thank everyone here for the generosity and letting me take a sabbatical. And we know that it takes a village, or in this case, it takes a congregation to lead RE. And so I'm really grateful to everyone who's stepping up while I'm away, for sure. to continue. And I just want to say that I pledge to return to all of you with renewed presence and faith in our joyful journey together. And let's see, I feel like I'm forgetting something. I wrote some notes. Hold on one second. Yes, well, of course, I will miss you all. So much. No, I really will. It's very bittersweet to be leaving. But also, I'll be back before you know it. And then a week later, we'll be going to West Virginia. So, yeah, thank you all again so much. Lots of love to all of you. And now we will sing our children out. Words are in your order of service. Thank you.
I now invite us into a time of centering. First, with words of prayer, and then ritual, kindling of the light, a time to come forward and light a candle at our candle table or at home to signify a joy, sorrow, or concern you hold within. At that time, if you would like a candle brought to you in the pews, please raise your hand. After we kindle the light, we will be together in a time of shared silence, out of which we will sing hymn number 1002 in the Teal hymnal, Comfort Me. Please join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, God of mercy, God of peace, where can we find sanctuary? Where is there comfort? The sound of bombs echo, Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, Israel. The pain of guns ripple. 565 shootings this year, more than we have lived days on the calendar. Our neighbors in Maine, the most recent site of grief. Hear our cry, hear our prayer. Hold our fear for ourselves, for our children, for our loved ones, for the future, for the world. Lead us to comfort. Lead us to peace. Let us now kindle the light.
In his essay, History, Ralph Waldo Emerson affirms that all of us are connected across the span of time, that the past influences the present, and knowledge of history can help us in shaping the future. These ideas are articulated in his poem at the beginning of the essay, a poem our choir will soon lift up in song. There is no great and no small to the soul that maketh all. And where it cometh, all things are, and it cometh everywhere. I am owner of the sphere, of the 7 stars and the solar year, of Caesar's hand and Plato's brain, of Lord Christ's heart and Shakespeare's strain.
Amen. Many families have ghost stories. Here's a story passed down to me and my family as it took place before I was born. My father's parents gathered everyone for a holiday meal, maybe Thanksgiving, maybe Christmas Eve. After a large and rich dinner, everyone relocated to the living room to relax, leaving the food on the dining room table. Leaving leftovers behind was intentional, a gesture to welcome the ancestors to the feast. As I think about it, this tradition from the old country was also a way to procrastinate doing dishes. But I like to think that the decision was a purely spiritual one. As the story goes, the after-dinner conversation was interrupted by the sharp buzz of the doorbell. My grandfather went to see who was there, and there was no one. A little while later, this happened again, making him think that neighborhood kids were bored and pulling pranks. But then, maybe an hour later, the doorbell rang again. This time, my grandfather was in the kitchen working his way through the dirty dishes. He was just steps from the window looking onto the breezeway, where one would see someone running away from the door if it were a prank. But again, no one was there. This only happened at this family gathering. What caused the doorbell to ring? Was it visitors from beyond or faulty wiring? Had our ancestors received our invitation and wanted to announce their presence? With Halloween just a few days away, this is a good time to tell ghost stories and stories of the spooky and unexplained. I hope when you're at Spooktacular, you will share your own family lore with one another. As October is a month centered on heritage, a month concluding with Halloween, I became curious about our religious ancestors and their relationship to the supernatural. Unitarian Universalism is a skeptical faith, often affirming the findings of science over mystical ideas and beliefs. What is spooky and horrific about Unitarian Universalism? Is there room in this tradition for what dwells beyond the rational, what can be proven only through testing, study, and analysis? The short answer is a resounding yes. This morning, I share a very incomplete survey of moments when Universalists, Unitarians, and the horrors of Halloween came together. I want to thank our longtime member, Dr. Bob Kennerson, for bringing me to Sleepy Hollow Cemetery in nearby Concord. One afternoon, we visited what is literary hallowed ground for many, Authors Ridge, where Louisa May Alcott, Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and their respective families are buried. It's good to invite the spiritual ancestors to visit, and it's also good to visit them as well. Climbing to the top of the hill and finding Emerson's grave marked by a massive boulder, I was also drawn to the graves next to his. They included markers for his two wives, Ellen and Lydian. I could not help but think about Emerson's response to losing his first wife, Ellen. She died young, very early in their marriage, and Emerson was devastated. Almost every day, he would walk the 5 miles to neighboring Roxbury to visit the place where Ellen was then buried. But on March 29th, 1832, he didn't just place flowers or speak to the silent headstone. Ralph Waldo Emerson opened his wife's coffin to behold her decomposing body. We know this happened because it's noted in his journal, but his diary simply notes that he did this, not why he did this, what he saw, or what the experience was like. Apparently, back in the day, this was a common practice. I'm glad grieving practices have changed. Emerson and his fellow transcendentalists like Alcott and Thoreau themselves were catalysts for change, influencing how people understand life, death, and the practical art of disposing dead bodies. If you wish to have the upper hand at trivia night, pay attention to the following. What is the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery? A graveyard is located next to a church, often with bodies facing east to be well positioned for Jesus' return. A cemetery is separate from a house of worship. Think of Mount Auburn Cemetery, a place where the trees, gardens, and graves are the destination, the chapel more of a necessity for gatherings. Mount Auburn and other garden cemeteries reflect the influence of transcendentalist theology, grounding the sacred in nature and not in the church. This was a change in where we bury our dead, but what about what we do with our dead? A contemporary of the Transcendentalists, Unitarian minister Octavius Brooks Frothingham was the first minister to preach a sermon in favor of cremation. Frothingham's was, like his colleague Theodore Parker, more radical than his peers and eventually disassociated from Unitarianism. Frothingham believed that personhood was defined entirely by character. Our immortality is created through the actions we take in life. Thus, in his theology, the body is somewhat irrelevant. His sermon, Disposal of Our Dead, in 1874, made a strong case for what was then a controversial practice. He was ahead of his time, as the first cremation in America took place 2 years later to much social outcry. Octavius Brooks Frothingham died in 1895, and it should not surprise us, his body was cremated and interred at Mount Auburn Cemetery. Unitarian Universalists continue to influence matters of death and burial, including leading and advocating for funeral societies, medical aid in dying, and the contemporary green burial movement. If you're reading ghost stories this time of year, you may be enjoying the results of another Unitarian-influenced movement. I'm grateful to my colleague, the Reverend Dr. Susan Ritchie, a UU historian who recently released a book, Dark and Stormy, Unitarian Theology in Gothic and Ghostly Literature, 1789 to 1912. In brief, Ritchie notes the significant number of Gothic writers who were also Unitarians, including Edward Bulwer Lytton, who coined the iconic phrase, "It was a dark and stormy night." Her thesis is that Gothic literature was one way these intellectual, optimistic leaders of the Enlightenment considered myth, magic, and the power of human imagination. As Gothic literature often includes an embodiment of the past bursting through into the present and causing chaos, this was one way these writers represented social injustice, seeking a voice, and critiqued Puritan forebears whose historic oppression caused community pain, needing to be heard. And some might even say that Unitarian Universalists themselves are a thing of horror. At least Edmund Burke did. Ritchie notes that in 1792, he described Unitarians as insect reptiles that fill us with disgust if they go above our natural size and increase the quantity. They become objects of the greatest terror. Suppose a spider as large as an ox. Deviating for a moment from stories about ghosts and death, do you know that the first people who claimed that they were abducted by aliens were Unitarians? It happened to Barney and Betty Hill on September 19th, 1961, near Lancaster, New Hampshire. I apologize to the Universalists for not paying better attention to their side of our heritage. If sermons were hours long, I would tell you about the connection between the Universalists, the spiritualists, and the social campaigns for abolition and women's suffrage. Spiritualists communicate with the dead as a central part of their spiritual practices. One of my current colleagues, the Reverend Randy Becker, is a retired UU minister and also a spiritualist. I began by sharing a ghost story from my biological family, and I conclude with a ghost story from my faith family. Informal research through an online colleagues list reveals that many Unitarian Universalist church buildings are haunted. Apparently, congregations in the Midwest are particularly haunted. There are stories from Beverly, Illinois. 2 former ministers haunt the church in Geneva, Illinois, making me wonder if clergy can ever retire. And the Alton, Illinois church is so haunted they once ran ghost tours, making their haunted status a reliable moneymaker. Now, if only the ghosts would sign the book and pledge. One colleague posted that the church in Kent, Ohio is haunted by the ghost of the Reverend Abby Danforth. She likes to play with the electrical switches. She opened a door one time near Halloween a few years ago and scared the daylights out of me. To this, another minister who once served that congregation added, "I was doing an introduction to Unitarian Universalism at the church and saw her up on the balcony." Through this online conversation, I also heard from my colleague, the Reverend Laura Campbell. She told me this story from her time serving as minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kennebunk, Maine. When Laura was new to the congregation, members were generous in sharing all they knew about the church, its history, its people, its building, including the claim that the sanctuary was haunted. A youth group a few generations ago had named the ghost Rupert. Lara did not have any sightings of Rupert herself. However, as the community prepared for her service of installation, the sound system was acting really strangely, letting out loud screeches at unpredictable times. All the tech nerds in the congregation could not figure out how or why this was happening. Lara concluded it must be Rupert. So she asked a friend of hers who was coming to the installation to arrive a day early. This particular friend is somewhat of a ghost whisperer. Could she help Lara connect and communicate with Rupert about the soundboard? Upon entering the sanctuary, Lara's friend confirmed that indeed there was the presence of a ghost, but Rupert is perhaps not the right name, as this ghost was of a young girl. As she said this, an image instantly formed in Lara's mind of a girl under the age of 10 with long, wavy, dark hair and a plaid printed dress. The friend assured Lara that this young girl only wanted to play. She noticed that Lara was very playful in how she led worship, and she wanted to join in. This explained, for example, why the door of a pew box of a particular member always seemed to pop open on its own, no matter where she sat in the sanctuary. Lara replied that she was very welcome in the sanctuary, but could she please leave the soundboard alone? It was not good for her to be in the equipment, and Lara was worried that her playing would have a negative impact on the installation. They had an agreement. The day of the installation, things went off without a hitch. However, when Lara's friend joined her in the pew and latched the door, it popped back open on its own. Then, after the service, the friend went to her car and discovered that while they were in the church, someone had placed one shoe on her windshield. It was so small, it could only belong to a child. After the installation, Lara toured the graveyard next to the church and made an educated guess that Rupert could be the ghost of a girl named Sarah. Lara joined the church archivist to look through the congregational records to learn more. When she said, "I wonder if Sarah's mother was a member of the Ladies' Auxiliary," the door to the archives room blew open by itself. They assumed that was a yes. In time, Sarah's visits were less frequent. Lara's dog, Maddie, once spent a long time barking at seemingly nothing in the balcony. Another time, a child in the congregation reported seeing a young girl. She was under the age of 10, with long, wavy, dark hair and a plaid printed dress. In case you're wondering, to the best of my knowledge, the Winchester Unitarian Society building is not haunted. I do believe, though, that we have a Dybbuk. A Dybbuk is a figure in Jewish folklore that will not hurt you, but will make life odd and difficult. I say this as strange things appear and disappear in the building all the time. For example, I lost my car key last week somewhere at WUS, and I can't find it anywhere. Let me know if a Toyota key fob appears out of nowhere. It would be really helpful. And no community can shovel as much money as we do at an elevator and still have it break down and not have a Dybbuk. The Building and Grounds Committee, the Standing Committee, and I invite anyone who is a Dybbuk whisperer to be in touch. Unitarian spiritual ancestor Ralph Waldo Emerson affirms that we are not just an interdependent relationship with life, but we are ever connected across time and through the boundary of life and death, and perhaps, in the case of Betty and Barney Hill, the boundary between Earth and space. Some experience this connection in tangible, unexplainable ways beyond our scientific understanding. Should you have such an experience you can't explain, may you have the courage to open the heavy lid, hear the creaking hinges, and look inside.
Our shared values of compassion, justice, and the inherent worth of every individual guide us in our commitment to support one another and those in need. Your generous contributions to our community help sustain our mission of fostering understanding, embracing diversity, and creating a more just and compassionate world. This morning, we share the plate with the Hospice and Palliative Care Federation of Massachusetts, connecting individuals with organizations providing compassionate end-of-life resources and care for patients and their families. Here are the different ways you can donate. Those in the sanctuary may give cash, checks, or donate electronically. Text to the number in your order of service, or visit our webpage under the Giving section. If you are visiting for the first time, either in person or online, you are our guest. In-person attendees can find a physical visitor card in the pew racks in front of you. Please complete it and put it in the collection plate. Information about how to give electronically will appear on your screen. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
Those who wish to do so are invited to join in the unison affirmation. We gather not for ourselves alone, but to use our common power to build the beloved community within and beyond these walls. We create and reaffirm this covenant this day to make justice flourish, to practice compassion amidst differences, and to embody transformative love. Please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing hymn number 1 in the gray hymnal, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door.
For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love. As we go forth from this time and place, let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating heaven on earth.
Please join me and Harris for reciting the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. This service has ended, but our life of service continues in the Metcalf Hall. Please follow the ghouls and goblins down the staircase or get a ride from the WUS Uber service at the front door.